good evening in India and Europe. What are some of the foods that are good and not so good for our gut health? Why is gut health so important? We will explore all these questions with Apeksha Thakur, a clinical dietitian with over 15 years of experience. Apeksha is a certified diabetes educator and nutrigenomics counselor. She has her own private practice and works for a reputable hospital, mentoring her clients the importance of food as medicine. I am Amita from Nourish Doc, a global platform for natural and holistic therapies. I would like to introduce all of you to Apeksha Thakur. Welcome, Apeksha.
Thank you, Amita. Thank you. Thanks a lot. Good evening, all, and good morning to a few who are watching me from around the corner. Today, I'm going to present before you something which is extremely important and which is something which does not display any symptoms per se. Gut health. It's extremely important. Let's take a look what gut health can do to us. Why do we go gaga about gut health? Why it is so important for all of us, majorly because around 80 to 90% of your immune cells are nothing but T cells, which are extremely important for development of your immune system. What if you have frequent episodes of cold cough? You go under the weather and you don't know what to do. Well, one of the reason apart from taking some over the counter drugs could be that let's take care of your gut. Around 80 to 90% of immune cells are present in gut. So this answer it all that you need to make sure that your gut health is appropriate enough for the absorption and for the production of immune cells. They also help massively in absorption of nutrient. Obviously, what if your gut health is poor? What if your gut health is just not cooperating with your immune system? Then the answer could be that your digestion, whatever you take in a form of food, gets hampered and thus resulting in poor absorption or malabsorption of the food. Obviously, if there is a malabsorption syndrome noticed, your gut health would also be messed up. Along with it, your nutritional status will also get affected. So it's very important to take care of your gut health because of obvious reasons. Around 60 to 65% of total health issues are associated with poor gut health. And that is why gut health is extremely important. We talk about cancer, we talk about insulin resistance, we talk about malabsorption syndrome, we talk about stress related diseases. Everything is interconnected, interlinked with poor gut health. Once you revolve around the factors by improving your gut microbiome, the gut load of healthy bacteria, obviously most of the problem caused due to gut poor health would get sorted. Can we have the next slide? What is the foundation of good health? Okay, we all talk about the physical aspect of our body. People are wanting to lose weight, people wanting to gain some muscles, etc. Well, the foundation of good health is something where you cannot see your gut health. It's not visibly available for you to see how poor or how good your gut health is. But when we talk about symptoms, obviously the symptoms are in the form of disease and malabsorption syndrome, which results in poor immunity because by now we know that around 80 to 85% of immune cells are produced in your gut. Obviously, gut health is extremely important because if I'm talking about health, all three aspects like immunity, gut, and nutrition are interconnected. Obviously, the entire foundation, the plinth of my gut health is based on all these three factors which are interconnected. If I want to improve my immunity, my gut health has to be appropriate enough. And obviously, because I want to improve my gut health, my nutrition aspect should be taken into consideration because ultimately, at the end of the day, you are what you eat. If you feed your body with wrong kind of nutrients, obviously your gut health is going to get deteriorate further, resulting in poor immunity. So all three of them are closely interconnected, and it's very important for us to understand that rather be focusing on one particular aspect, let's take it as a teamwork. there are people who I consult on a daily basis, and they are wanting to fix their gut. They want to improve that gut microbiome content or gut microbiota. There is something called as dysbiosis. Dysbiosis is the stage where your gut microbiome, your good and bacteria balance or load in the gut is not appropriate. We try to fix it with health management by giving nutritious diet or giving gut friendly things. But obviously, there are other components which revolve around good diet. And for the diets to work better, it's also important to understand the root cause of the gut imbalance. There are some top foods, which should be included, obviously, after knowing the underlying cause of the gut problem, which help in healing and fixing the gut. In my list, the first important nutrient or the component of food is prebiotic. Now, if I want to plant something, obviously I will have to feed my plant with good nourishment to ensure that my plant is growing faster and better. Similarly, prebiotics are extremely important for the production of probiotics, the activity of probiotics, which I'll come to it. But prebiotics are simply defined as the fertilizers of good probiotics. If I want to make sure that my probiotics are working well in the body, I will have to give my body good dose of prebiotics. Now, what are these prebiotics? To name a few examples: banana, garlic, onions, inulin, which is a soluble fiber, are all great examples of prebiotics. For any probiotic to work, even if you want to work with over-the-counter drugs available as probiotics, you need equal load of prebiotics for probiotics to work well in your body. Coming to probiotics, probiotics are basically a good strain of bacteria which keep gut environment healthy. When I was talking about dysbiosis, where there is no balance between the load of good and bad bacteria, probiotics are extremely crucial part of any dietary management plan to make sure that they are feeding good bacteria, and they are making sure that your bad bacteria in the gut, which are giving you trouble in one or the other way, are definitely getting dormant. So obviously the pre and probiotic concept is something that pre is something which I need to give it along with probiotic to make sure that the action of probiotics is getting better. Probiotics, to give you a simple example, is homemade yogurt is a great source of probiotics. You have some fermented cabbage, which can be a probiotic. Kombucha is again a type of probiotic. So most of the fermented products you eat on a daily basis have a good load of probiotic bacteria in them. So it's very important to understand that in a dietary management plan for gut health, we definitely need to stress more on the importance of pre and probiotics. Fiber rich food. Fiber is extremely important. Just like I mentioned earlier, that inulin, which is a kind of prebiotic, is also a soluble fiber. So obviously the combination of fiber in form of soluble and insoluble, there are two types of fibers which are available: soluble and insoluble. Soluble and insoluble fiber, around 25 to 30 grams for an adult, is meant to be appropriate to make sure that your fiber rich foods are working well. Fiber also provides satiety, and it also helps massively in weight management. So obviously the importance of fiber rich food has its own place in a gut friendly environment. Spinach is one kind of healer which helps to fix the gut. So obviously, if we know the underlying cause, spinach, and definitely spinach in the form of puree, spinach which is definitely done well and it is cleaned well and it is blanched well, can definitely be incorporated in gut diet. Sweet potato, it's an excellent source of B6. B6 is pyridoxine, which is a vitamin which is extremely important to calm down the nervous system. B6 importance lies, when it helps in muscle activity as well, and it also helps in relaxation of nerves. In any given scenario, after knowing the cause, we definitely inculcate the habit of people giving them sweet potato as a form of a pre-snack, a mid-snack, or maybe in a form of some sabzi or some vegetable. Sweet potato has its own importance in fixing the gut. Watermelon, the lycopene content of watermelon, it's a pigment which is present in watermelon, also helps in fixing the gut. Ginger and garlic are another categories of prebiotics, as I mentioned earlier. And ginger and garlic are definitely they also have a very good antimicrobial, antiviral, antifungal properties in them. So obviously they are great as gut healers as well. Broccoli with spinach family obviously has a very close interlinked with a kind of color pigments they have, the kind of antioxidant content they have. They are also considered as a gut healer. Water. What if I ask you that you are just eating without making sure that your digestion is not getting improved in the absence of water? If you just keep eating something and you don't pay heed to the hydration, the pure water which is available and which is a very important yet underrated nutrient, obviously because it does not contribute to any calorie, it is extremely important for survival. Apart from survival, because it's an universal solvent, obviously it maintains good load of gut bacteria in the body. So especially when I want to focus on the content of good bacteria or bad bacteria, I have to ensure that my body is well hydrated. In such cases, we often ask people to just correct their hydration status. In fact, a lot of patients of mine, they eat everything well, but there is little attention which is taken into consideration for water. And once I manage to correct their water intake, obviously you start seeing the results almost instantly. So water is extremely important. Water for life, water to make sure that your gut bacteria are working well, especially the good ones. We don't want the bad bacteria, which are uninvited guests, to make sure that the load of bad bacteria is kept to minimal. Berries are again great source of antioxidants, and they are great for healing gut lining. So obviously berries are again extremely important to be included as a fruit. As a snack, they are good to go. Bananas. There is something very special about bananas. Apart from providing instant boost of energy, to being a great source of potassium and B6, and they also have good fiber content in them. Bananas are easy on stomach. They are mild on stomach. They are instant source of energy. They are powerhouse of energy. And as I mentioned earlier, with sweet potato, the B6 content, the pyridoxine, vitamin B6 content in bananas is great to make sure that the gut is healing faster, and it is not being taxed by unnecessary load of bad bacteria. Apples, again, the apple is a great example of perfect combination of soluble and insoluble fiber. Apple has both the kind of fiber, and apple is something which also helps to ensure that the gut microbial activity is faster and it's effective. So apples are great to go as well.
Okay, moving on. What are the terrible foods?
uh, Well, when we talk about terrible foods are not something which we need to scare off. But it's very important that you curtail them, or you just go slow on them. Just like you have good and bad bacteria, we also have some good foods and bad foods for gut. So if I want to improve gut, obviously I will have to feed the right food for the right bacteria to grow inside my gut to make wonders to my immune system, to my overall well-being. So by now we all know that around 60 to 65% of total health issues existing in human body are due to poor gut health. So these are some contraindicated, or rather just go slow with them, because these foods will not help your immune system, nor they will be helpful to your gut health. So the first on the list is sugar. Sugar is something which is extremely, you have to be cautious. The concept with sugar is, sugar is responsible to feed wrong bacteria. So if I want to just put it simple, sugar is something where my bad bacteria survive on. And sugar is also responsible to make my stomach pH levels more acidic. So obviously, sugar is something which the good bacteria in my stomach, which I want them to multiply faster, would actually get dormant in the presence of sugar. Whereas the cycle goes other way around, that in presence of sugar, my bad bacteria would actually multiply faster. Obviously, they, because of this kind of approach in the body, the gut microbiota, or the dysbiosis, what we spoke about, the imbalance of the load between the good and bad bacteria, gets tossed up completely. So obviously, if I want to feed sugar to my patients with already poor gut health, like celiac disease, or gluten intolerance, or lactose intolerance, or something else, in simple case, even like IBS, irritable bowel syndrome, which is very common, and the cause of irritable bowel syndrome is not known, but people really find it a great relief once we eliminate direct or indirect form of sugar from their diets. So obviously the impact what sugar has on gut microbiome is completely negative. Coming to processed products, we are aware about the fact that anything which comes in a processed form or in the form of boxes is something it has undergone multiple treatments of processing before reaching me. So obviously anything which comes from the boxes is has gotten a treatment of the series of treatment rather, before actually it is made consumable for the consumer. So processed products are generally high on sugar. If not sugar as a direct form, they have different forms of or names of sugar. Like you have high fructose corn syrup, you have malt, you have sugar, you have artificial sweetness. These all are indirect or different multiple names given to sugar. So obviously processed products are also high on salt, sodium, which is again a dehydrator. Anything which has excess sodium will definitely leach out extra water from my body. And as we discussed earlier, that water is something which is extremely important to maintain the gut environment well. So obviously in presence of high sugar, high salt, and also processed products are low on fiber, because they have undergone multiple treatments before it is made edible for the consumer. So processed products are extremely low on calories. In nutrient content of the processed product is low. They would be high on calories, but the nutrition labeling and the nutrition content also goes high, because they majorly contribute to a lot of sugar, they contribute to a lot of fats in some cases, and they also uh, do not contribute to much good levels of vitamins and minerals. So it's something which is you can take it as an occasional treat, but this is something which you cannot make it as a part of your gut friendly diet for sure. Caffeinated beverage, caffeine, studies have shown that if you consume more than 250 to 300 milligrams of caffeine per day, would actually irritate the lining of your stomach. Also caffeine is an acidic product. So just to give you a gist that acidic and alkaline are two kind of products, where we know that human blood is slightly on a neutral or an alkaline side. So obviously if I'm taking foods like caffeine on an excessive basis, then obviously it is going to hamper the environment of my gut. Now it's very important here to understand that your gut microbiomes, there are trillions of bacteria, good bad bacteria in your gut. So obviously, when you feed something which is laden with caffeine and sugar, obviously the load of bad bacteria is going to go high because they like acidic environment, and caffeine contributes, if not taken in limit, it definitely contributes to a higher level of acidic environment. So what happens in such cases? Because the gastric cavity, the stomach pH levels go acidic, obviously the load of bad bacteria is also going to go up because of that. Good bacteria would definitely go low, the count will definitely low go, and definitely there would be again an imbalance or a dysbiosis in such cases. So caffeine is something where you can, and most of us, we take caffeine in some or the other form. Most of us are either tea and coffee drinkers, but we need to make sure that we are eating and we are calculating caffeine as a part of gut health, as prescribed by a healthcare provider, to make sure that you are comfortably able to take the required amount of caffeine per day. Ready to eat products definitely overlap with processed products. As I mentioned earlier, that anything which is available in a ready made or in the form of boxes has undergone through a multiple treatments before reaching me. So obviously I would not be comfortable including them on the daily basis. I would curtail myself, I would limit myself to eat quantity and also the quality of the food what you're getting, as compared to the normal food, normal home cooked food what you eat, would definitely be low. These products are usually high on calories, but they are very low on the nutrition profile. So it's very important to make them make yourself convinced with the fact that anything which has undergone multiple treatments is not a good idea to include them as a part of your wellness plan. Red meat. Red meat has a component, carnitin. Carnitin is a component which is present in red meat, and if there is an excess intake of red meat in the diet, obviously, the carnitin which is present in red meat interferes with the gut load of microbiomes. So, in such cases, obviously, red meat has its own demerits on the sides, where people who have the history of or predisposition for heart risk would definitely go slow with the red meat consumption. Also, because the carnitin is not able to balance itself, in the presence of the gut microbiome, it is a marker, it's a red flag indicator for developing heart risk. So it's always better that you keep your red meat consumption to lowest. Raw eggs, obviously raw eggs in any form are not good. They are loaded with very harmful bacteria which interfere with the production and the absorption of good bacteria in the body. So raw eggs are best to be avoided. You can definitely include them for some super reasons in your daily diet in a form of completely cooked forms. Genetically modified, obviously they are convenient, they are more clean, they have a better improved nutrition profile, but ultimately they are modified. So obviously we have a lot of researches and they're still coming up that genetically modified foods are not a great go for good gut health. In fact, inclusion of genetically modified food, where the structure of the food is actually modified in the form of, you name some example like canola or corn, they are available in the genetically modified versions, and they are not very gut friendly, and obviously they are best to be treated as an occasional treat, just to make sure that you do not you're not messing up with the natural structure of the food accordingly. And hard beverages, 1 gram of alcohol gives me 7 kilocalories, and they're empty calories. I'm talking about insulin resistance, I'm talking about the impact it has on your liver. It also has a very negative impact on your gut microbiota. So hard beverages, alcohol in any form, obviously if you restrict yourself to around 1 to 2 drinks per week, It is absolutely acceptable, when your factors revolve around what kind of nutrition plan you're following. But hard beverages are something which are empty calories. They do not have any nutritional contribution to give, and at the same time, they also uh, disbalance or bring about the disbalance in the load versus your good and bad bacteria. So it's best to avoid them.
All right. So there's a lot
Uh,
of food
I
that you talked about. Yes, go ahead, please, Apeksha.
So, these are some key takeaways till what we have discussed so far about. We all know by now that, gut and immune health are a close knit association. They are interlinked. So it's a cycle that if I want to work on my immunity, the first thing I need to ask, whether my gut health is okay. There are people with common problems like IBS, celiac disease, lactose intolerance, gluten intolerance. These all are quite common to be seen these days. And the question you need to ask yourself, and also a healthcare provider would definitely assess these factors before recommending you anything. But honestly, from what I have understood from so many years of my practice, that over the counter drug is not the solution. It's a multidisciplinary approach, where I have to look for the solution in a more integrated form, and resulting in that gut and immune cells are definitely interconnected, and it is something that I cannot rely on one particular aspect to get corrected on its own. Obviously, if the gut health is taken care of well, the immune response gets better, because we know that around 80 to 85% of immune cells are developed in gut. So we need to make sure that, if we want to make our immune system stronger, we need to first fix the gut, just to ensure that everything else is falling into place. A pre and probiotic is given importance. A serving of homemade curd should be present with each meal. When we talk about pre and probiotics, especially probiotics, the easiest way to get probiotic is, you can definitely take it as in a form of homemade yogurt. It should be a part of every meal, every major meal. So it can be a part of your lunch and dinner. There are people, depending upon ethnicity, that breakfast, lunch, dinner, all three major meals have probiotics. A great way of including prebiotic is also, raw onions with rice. A simple probiotic meal can be as simple as rice kanji, which is made up of rice. So these all are small, important, and very easy to make recipes to get good dose of pre and probiotic uh, nutrition. And pre and probiotic are interrelated. So, people who are on probiotic supplements would not think that, if my gut environment is not right, in presence of prebiotic, my probiotic effectivity would go down by around 56 to 58%. So you can imagine that the importance, the weightage what a prebiotic does for probiotics. So it's very important that they work in sync, and they have to be a part of your wellness plan altogether. A sound sleep is extremely important, because that's the only way to reboot the taxing digestive system. Just to give you all example, around 80% of total energy expenditure is spent on digestion and gut maintenance of gut health. So obviously, when I am eating something, I am wanting around 80% of the total energy which I produce, to make sure that my digestion is working well. So the only way to reboot and to improve its efficiency is by providing around 7 to 8 hours of sound sleep in the night. So that's a natural way of rejuvenating my gut health. Sugar laden products, obviously heavy alcohol, we have already discussed that alcohol, smoking, heavy meals. The problem with heavy meals is like, it taxes your digestive system a lot. So obviously, because the human digestion takes a lot of energy in maintenance, healthy meals are divided into small portions to make sure that your digestive system is not getting taxed. At the same time, the absorption of nutrient, which is very important for maintenance of gut health, and then also from a result perspective, that what exact a kind of results you're wanting to look into yourself. And that is why it's best to avoid heavy, oily, fried meals in one go, because there is no way that your digestive system, it's quite overwhelming for your digestive system. So obviously we need to just cut them short into small, frequent meals as consulted by your nutrition expert. And eat food which encourage the growth of gut-friendly bacteria, hence better immune response. Because we know that health, immunity, nutrition, gut health, everything is interconnected. Obviously, if you take the foods which were listed, as a
Apeksha, we can't hear you. Hello? Apeksha, I think your screen froze. I am sorry.
the diagnosis of underlying cause is extremely important, but this is a sample diet menu to just make you all understand that how a gut friendly diet menu looks like. As I mentioned, that it's an egg omelette, where obviously raw eggs are contraindicated. So you need to make sure that the eggs are really fresh, of good quality, and they are cooked well. You have oats porridge, you have rice flour, you have fruits, which can be a part as a mid snack, lunch, followed by a good salad, rotis in the form of, you can pick up between jawar, which is sorghum, bajra, pearl millet, you have nachni also, you can have rice flour. These all are inclusion, and as a part of a gut wellness plan, these all things are given major importance, because they have some amazing benefits to contribute for good gut health. Ginger, again, ginger is also responsible as a gut healer, because it has some amazing healing properties. So ginger tea can be taken. Chamomile tea, which obtains from chamomile flower, can be taken as a part of wellness diet plan, where chamomile is obviously it does not have caffeine, firstly, and secondly, it is also responsible to calm down your nerves. So it's a great healer as well. Obviously followed by dinner and bedtime. In case if you find it, obviously based on the practice, and based on other stuff, if you find it really difficult to tolerate certain things, and you're sensitive to certain things, it's best to get yourself checked thoroughly from a nutrigenomic point of view. There are a lot of testings available at genetic level for testing gut microbiota. There are a lot of tests which are available under a supervision and the close supervision of healthcare provider. So based on that, this is how a normal gut friendly diet menu looks like. This is a gut immune fixer. Obviously, we all know that we are fighting off pandemic. We are fighting off COVID. Obviously, gut health is something which is extremely important, because the house of the disease starts from gut. If your gut health is poor, everything else does not go well. Talking from your digestion to your ailments, and something as serious as developing insulin resistance or cancer. Uh, Turmeric powder, ginger, turmeric has amazing property again. It's very good for immunity, but this is a special gut and immune fixer drink, which I would like you all to bring into notice as a part of takeaway, where these ingredients, which can be taken in a form of decoction, would really help in soothing gut. So obviously you need to make sure that just like one size does not fit all, without knowing the impact of particular ingredient, particular aspect of disease what you're fighting off from. We need to make sure that we are taking advice of the healthcare provider, but this is how a gut and immune fixer drink looks like, which has all the ingredients in the right proportion to make sure that you are helping your gut from getting taxed with the load of bad bacteria, which comprises of turmeric. You have freshly grated ginger, with a water with a pinch of hing or asafoetida, as we call it as, and it's a great way of making sure that you are releasing extra gas, flatus from your system, or ajwain, depending upon what is available. You need to add some few sweet basil seeds, which are again optional. The reason of adding basil seeds is it will change the taste of the drink, for good. It will develop very good taste in your drink, and obviously basil also has some great medicinal properties, so you can definitely add them based on your availability. All you need to do is just combine all these ingredients and just simmer them, do not boil them. Simmer them in water for around 5 to 7 minutes, depending upon how strong you want your drink to be. But ideally around 5 to 7 minutes of ingredients is something which you need to strain and drink it post meals. You can have around 75 to 100 ml 2 times a day, based on how your meals are planned, and accordingly. Just one important takeaway from this is that the turmeric powder, preferably organic form of turmeric powder, should be the last ingredient to be added in the vessel. Just to make sure that you are not putting them all together with other ingredients as well. Turmeric should be definitely introduced in the later stages, once you are just about to switch off your gas.
Okay. We thank you so much, Apeksha. Are we open for questions, or you want to add a few more things?
Well, I would only say that we all want to make sure that the physical aspect of health is not something which is physically available. Your weight or your appearance does not determine that how healthy you are. Gut health is something which often goes asymptomatic if not taken care of. Not every gut issue will come out with symptoms. So obviously we need to make sure that if we want to feed our body, we first need to feed our gut. If we feed our gut right things, so basically what you're feeding your body in terms of nutrition is a complete reflection of your gut health. So everything is a close knit association, and it's completely tangled in a way where no one particular aspect can be taken into consideration. And gut health is a very complex thing, which can be made it simple by only working on one direction to make sure that your gut health is fixed. If your gut health is fixed, absolutely, from something as simple as fighting off physical issues to something as hypothetical as improving cognitive function. So gut health is associated with something as simple as diarrhea, to something as scientific as improving and maintaining your brain function. So imagine gut health is responsible to perform so many multiple functions in the body that you cannot pinpoint on one particular aspect and take it forward from there.
Okay, so any questions? We are open for questions. There was a lot of material that Apeksha shared with all of you. I hope it's not overwhelming, but we are here to answer any questions you have. So please put your questions in the chat window or in the questions, and Apeksha will be able to take care of your questions. I see people in Zoom. So I will wait for a couple of minutes and see if there are any questions. Okay. And what we've done is I've put our email address. If you cannot think of any questions right now, you're welcome to assimilate all the information that has been given to you, and reach out to us after the webinar as well. The email is there, and as well as our website. So we have all these things. And one thing I do wanted to ask you was that you talked about the menu. So if I go back here, we didn't talk about the timing in between, in the sense like how much time should we allow between the breakfast and the mid-morning, with each one of the meals that you talked about. Maybe you could just talk a little bit about that.
So,
Like,
obviously,
how much time
the reason,
2 hours
the reason. So reason I have not, specified timings is for the simple reason that there are a lot of factors which revolve around the frequency of meals, and also, the load of the previous meal. So obviously, when we are breaking down the calories, we ensure that, things are working as per the lifestyle factors. However, it's always advisable that you need to have a spacing of around 2 to 3 hours between the two meals. The reason of maintaining 2 to 3 hours between the meals is your digestion takes conveniently around 2 to 2.5 hours to get completed. Efficiently. Obviously, now again there are a lot of determinants where we talk about gut health, how good or bad is your gut health, and various factors. But it's always wise to keep around 2 to 3 hours, depending upon the load of the previous meal, just to make sure that your digestion is getting smoother and it's getting better.
Okay, and then the dinner, is there any time like before 7 o'clock or something? Because now you have also introduced something called bedtime, which is the almond milk, right? So some like 7 o'clock dinner and then 10 p.m. Bedtime drink.
So
Is that what you?
technically, again, it revolves on other factors. But yes, ideally, if I don't want to help with the timings, I would definitely, without knowing patient's history and other thing, I would advise people to finish off their dinner. Around 2.5 to 3 hours before they go off to sleep. Because obviously, as my day passes by, my metabolic rate starts to get sluggish. So my body's capacity to burn off calories efficiently would definitely go low because of the physical and the mental stress I have gone throughout the day. So it's always ideal to keep around 3 hours of gap, just to make sure that your digestion is not getting taxed, and you are also able to do justice with the kind of nutrition you're providing to your body.
Okay. Any questions from the audience? Okay. So I think there's a lot of information that Apeksha you gave to the clients, to all of us. So maybe it takes a little bit time for us to assimilate. So I think what I want to say is that we are coming up with the group workshops. Apeksha is a certified diabetes educator, so she will be giving a workshop on diabetes, and we will let everyone know. So with that, I think I'd like to thank all of you for watching or for viewing or attending our sessions. Please help us spread the word and help us share. Any last comment from Apeksha, from you, before I wrap up?
Well, thank you. Thanks a lot. I hope that the session which I try to conduct is a need of an hour. Don't be ignorant with your gut health is something which has to be fixed on priority. Don't look it as a destination, look it as a journey. So the more you feed your body with good things, the better result it will reflect in a form of your physical and mental well-being. So it's just a reflection, and obviously you want the best for yourself. So gut health is something, a place where you need to start from. And thank you so much, Amita and Nourish Talk, to giving me this medium, to whatever little contribution I can do to the viewers, who are watching me from all over the world.
Thank you so much.
It was a pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And we'll be coming back with more details on the group workshops. With that, signing off, this is Amita. Thank you.